Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Return of the Obra Dinn. What is interesting here is what I was thinking about is just how unimportant the input device is in this game. Because yes, I'm using a controller and that allows me to swing left and right and walk with the left stick, just standard controller inputs, but you don't really have to walk around that much or do anything compared to, say, an action game where you were platforming, running, jumping, or a first person shooter where you were hiding behind uh, walls and shooting guns and targeting and aiming. But ironically, if I were to play mouse and keyboard, it would be basically the exact same experience. That there really is no change because the input is so minimal, which is weird because Papers, Please, I think, was mostly a mouse and keyboard game that had been specifically optimized to updates, if I recall correctly, to make it so that people could play the games way better with a keyboard only and way faster. And Papers, Please was such a game around the idea of uh, getting as many people through the uh, border admission that it certainly made a lot of sense to potentially have more people move through faster. We're going through all of the memories to try and find anybody and everybody. Um, and see, ideally, what I'd want to do is just name as many people as possible with that haven't been named. Hmm. Hmm. So what had just happened is that this creature had hit this person in it with its tail in the face, which was a very specific uh, fate. And then this falls, and this hits this guy in the back of the head, and I assume kills him. And I don't think in this memory there's really anywhere else you can go. Like this little secret alcove, which they really did nothing with. There's really no reason why this exists in the game, or there's really no reason why this guy specifically would be allowed, uh, would need this. Like, let's just assume that at some point this is where all the milled wood that the ship might need for repairs was kept, and this was just storage. Why the slots in the walls then? Why the blatantly obvious slots in the walls if they're peepholes? It really just kind of feels like it's an arbitrary somebody could be watching over you concept. Hmm. But yeah, I guess there's nothing more to see here, so we'll just walk through the door. It's odd to put the door right in between this column, but I guess you needed to do something with it. Maybe move the columns. The columns are in the wrong place. And that on the map was what chapter? Part 3 of Unholy Captives. So we now want to see part 4, which is on the cargo deck. We're just going through everything and Kind of guesstimating. Yep. Just trying to see everybody in every scenario in which we see everybody. Hmm. Hmm.
What madness is this? 20 years my steward had never a doubt on your sanity.
Hmm.
Explain yourself. Those ungodly beasts carry a curse.
Hmm.
Throw them back or doom us all.
See, it seems odd.
Put him in the lazarette with those things. He may
Interesting.
his senses.
So maybe he gets killed by.
All's fine, John.
Hmm.
Been in worse spots, I think.
Hmm.
Where's the rest of his leg?
Hmm. So they don't apparently ever find the rest of his leg. So this could be a case where half the people seem to know and half the people seem to not know. And we had this guy labeled as the captain's steward, but clearly either Flipdoll is not the captain's steward, but maybe the ship's steward. Does that look like an Indian guy? Not really. Could be a first mate steward. At a certain point, I think we may just have to label people all the exact same thing. Like, the only other thing he could be would be the first mate steward, Paul Moss. This guy is just a sailor, and see, at this point, any seaman should just be named Nathan Peters until the game decides to tell me differently. We know who this guy is. We see the artist surgeon guy. And see, this guy was labeled as a midshipman, and I guess he's not that midshipman, so we'll just change that. And this guy, we think he was the helmsman, but honestly, I have no idea what he is. I seriously doubt he's a seaman. I seriously doubt he's a midshipman, but you know what? We've been all over the place. Unless he's a passenger. And then up here, we know who that guy is. Well, wait a minute. How can this be the artist? Yeah, that's the artist. And this is the surgeon. I thought we had already said how the artist had died, yeah. We still don't know who he is, but I assume he's an unknown officer by that hat. We know who this is. We know who this is. We know that guy's dead. We know that this isn't that seaman. Hmm. Yeah, at the end of the day, we're probably just gonna find out that the uh, Nathan Peters is just unknown as a character, and then we'll probably have to brute force a bunch of other people. Hmm. Yeah, we don't know how that guy died, so it probably would just behoove me to label everybody as falling overboard. And you can't get any further. So is there possibly something else, some other body or some other person? A lot of these scenes were like this, where there was extra floors, extra levels on top of the area that they were focusing mostly on. But that doesn't... It's really trickling any small bits of knowledge down. There's still a lot of opportunity here for you to just not know what's going on. See, next we would be looking for chapter 6, which is Soldiers of the Sea, which is way at the top. And we're about 2 or 3 hours now into the point where we could have ended the game. And I feel like there's a higher number of people than there really should be that would have been willing to just end the game with incomplete information. Particularly since most of the people seem like they would have to just brute force it. Alright, so that's the exit. We see somebody over there, but I don't think we can actually zoom on that person. And it seems to me like the mermaids that are attacking now aren't the same mermaids that have been kidnapped. Here you have a whole row of people pulling. You know, that guy was electrocuted. Think we know how that guy died. So, if he's not Wei Li, then he's got to be Ling Hong. Or he didn't fall overboard to his death. He was electrocuted. Which I kind of have a hard time believing. Because I'm not really seeing him dead. This really is one of those cases where the game could lead you astray quite a bit. Yeah. See, that guy is still alive, so there's really no reason to say that fell overboard. I'm just gonna have to assume. Okay. If he's a top man, then he's probably got to be either the Russian guy or the English guy. So we'll say he's the Russian guy. Nothing on his belt. I thought maybe there was something there. And we'll put him as a top man under the English guy. I swear there was a point where I could zoom in on that body. Is there anybody else we can zoom on? You almost have to assume for certain that the top men are all the same. Like that nobody but the top men would be allowed on the ground, on the rigging. Even if somebody was trying to help out, I think they'd probably say no. Yeah, Omid Ghoul. We already got him. Alright. So then the next part of Soldiers of Sea is over here, which I assume is this body. Seems like the map is a little bit off compared to where the body of the location of the body actually is. So these mermaid crab riding creatures seem to be coming to save the other mermaid creatures, and I assume these are close to the same species of mermaids riding the crabs, and not just one creature that looks like two creatures. I guess it is not really an important detail one way or the other, because every horrible creature is just labeled as a horrible creature. And here you have plant-like spikes and spears. Alright, so this seaman is going to be the same. Everybody's going to be named Nathan Peters. Unless we can get something better. But that does mean if I name every seaman Nathan Peters, that I have to have two other non-seaman characters correct as far as their fate. There's no point here because we don't know what his fate is. Just, yeah, we're still just putting garbage in. Let's see. This guy was the guy that was electrocuted up there. So is there anybody else that's like sneakily hidden? Or is there a way to get down lower? Looks like the answer is no. Then the next one is the spiked guy down here. And you kind of wish that there would just be a solution to a quick move instead of having to walk. But I guess the game exists as it does, and they probably didn't want to eliminate a lot of this time wasting content. It is oddly just pretty much becoming time wasting.
Come on, boss. No, get there.
So they call him boss, which maybe means something. You know, Nick is already dead. Back here, do we have anything we can see? We have somebody. Does this look like a steward? Fourth mate. So it would make sense then for this to be the fourth mate's steward. But it's kind of interesting here. You have him throwing an axe, and you get the spinning motion towards it, and then it has a more directional shooting element. And that's the carpenter's mate. And that's the carpenter, which he is spiked by terrible baste. And do we want to call him a seaman too? We can't go down any lower. Can we go up higher? Yes, we can. I already know him. Who's this? Still don't really know who this person is. A lot of times we're just seeing people hiding. And unless we saw bodies in the ocean, it would be pretty difficult to guarantee that you actually were seeing somebody falling overboard. So you're really making an estimate here. We know one of the characters specifically spoke a different language. This guy we know is dead. Is this guy named Kevin? Nope. So one of these characters is supposed to be named Kevin. Do we have a Kevin? Or did we already identify Kevin? Seems like to me we don't even have a Kevin. Hmm. Hmm. This is that kid James. So he's like he's mentioned earlier. Hmm. Hmm. I wonder if it undoes all your selections when you name somebody a name and the way I'm trying to cheat is not actually doable. That would be very smart of the game creator to do that. Like Lucas Pope to do that. Like make it so you have to actually commit to your guesses and you can't just brute force name everything the same until one is right. That being said, you also then run into the problem where this whole process could just get longer and longer with no hope in sight for improvement. Am I looking at the right? Unholy captives? No, we were doing soldiers of the sea. And we just did that one, part 3. So we want part 4. Which is here. Yeah. But you would need to know what language a lot of these characters are speaking to get a better idea as far as what origin that person might have. This guy was decapitated. We got that right. This was probably a bit of a gimme. Hmm. 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 Well, this guy's spiked for sure. We know that much. But he's not that midshipman. So we'll change his name. This guy apparently burned to death, but that's not he's not the bosun's mate, so let's let's put him as a midshipman too. Hmm. Hmm. See you midshipman also? Hmm. I think what we were doing was we were labeling all of the people with the knot as seamen. Hmm. Is the captain. Captain does seem to be involved. This isn't the captain's steward, though. Hmm. he's not the captain's steward, he's got to be somebody else. So I'll just put him as like the third mate. I don't think that's right at all. And once again, we'll just label everybody. He's a gunner. So the guy with the hat like that's a gunner. That might be helpful information. Hmm. It's not from India. Might be from Sweden. See, and if you were playing a game of Clue like this, you would lose. Absolutely. There's no way you could make this level of guesses and be anywhere close before somebody else completely wrecked you and actually used deductive logic to find a way to defeat the... Here we go. No, this guy. No, this guy. No, this guy. Yeah. I don't think my cheating is working. And I guess the easiest way to check this would be, let's just look at all the people who we think are seamen. Nathan Peters. Unknown. Yeah, I had marked him as Nathan Peters. So it is undoing my choices. So you cannot brute force this the way you would like it to. Which at a certain level just means I do need to go. Take one that's not stricken out. As far as a seaman, put it here. Come out here. Find somebody else that's not stricken out. Put a name here. As long as they have a death associated with them, then there's a chance. Then what I think we need to do on top of that is find anybody that elsewise might be named unknown, and we might have an answer to. Like anybody that doesn't have a name listed should be labeled as something until we have all of the possible unknown characters filled in. And then once we start moving things around, there might be some other answers we can use. Yeah, that might be as much as we can do, though. Hmm. Let's see. If we were to come over here and look at this, do we have an idea of any of the names of any of these people? I think you're forced to identify hmm. See. This could be Nathan Peters. This could be he was shot by Henry Brenham. Could be shot by George Shirley or Samuel Peters. Oh, we found the two Peters. So if we can find the brother, that would be helpful. Hmm. We should probably just put fell overboard on anything else that we just don't know. Yeah, I really think I'm probably just wrong on some major parts. Hmm. Also, it doesn't seem like you can actually change who you label as a person from this screen. So it doesn't actually help you anyways. Hmm. Hmm. So we don't even have 3 answers, right? This is a lot like one of those, what is it? The Drew Carey hosts nowadays. I want to say Wheel of Fortune, but I know that's wrong. There's a TV show, and in one of the mini games in that TV show, you ask if you have at least one answer right. And then if it makes a sound noise, you ask if you have at least 2 answers right. Price is Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. And it doesn't seem like we have even one answer right. Well, at least we don't have 2 answers right. And the guessing aspect to this should be getting easier, not harder. Is there a body up there? No. But yeah, it is unfortunately seemingly going to take more and more time to get less and less information until at some point, I suppose, the crest breaks. And then we do have, at that point, I think we will have a cascading domino effect of getting things correct. But yeah, these sound effects, like literally no words were spoken, so unless you can recognize that Like, unless you can recognize that the voice sounds similar, you're probably not going to get much information from that. The top men are all Chinese. So you're kind of forced to just move things around, I suppose. Is there a guy that is like this guy that's stuck on the wall? We know who that is. And if we found somebody in a specific room, that might be an indicator that that's their room. But we don't have any of that. I'll say the music is short enough and varied enough that you don't run into a scenario where you're just hating life, as it were, hearing the same songs over and over again. I'm just going to start putting seamen as midshipmen. And yeah, I think we may just put the seamen where the midshipmen are and the midshipmen where the seamen are. Although that really doesn't make any sense at all. Because if the midshipmen are the ones with the collars, there's only so many of those. 33, 34, 35, and then there was a 36 through 39 that were either seamen and topmen, whereas there's just a massive number of seamen otherwise. And I have to just assume by my basic knowledge that seamen are considered fairly low level characters. Yep. We'll have him as the third mate. I'm just gonna put him as the bosun. I feel like we're going in circles with a lot of these accusations and guesses. This guy is clearly not Nathan Peters. Do we have any midshipmen to switch? Nope, not really. I think there's probably a decent amount of characters that I've marked as having fallen overboard inaccurately, which also is probably skewing my feelings here. But yeah, we've pretty much gone an entire episode and not found a single thing. Soldiers at the Sea, Part 6 of 8.
I've got you. I'll get you down.
So this guy was pulling them off, and we know he died of the spikes, so that's the surgeon. We assume, unless we're just really wrong. I don't think he's a midshipman. But I think also he maybe didn't fall over to his death. We still don't know who that guy is. The problem here is a lot of these guesses also are going to change. A lot of these guesses are just kind of guessing over another thing. See, is this after we stabbed it? So maybe he is throwing. Maybe he is throwing a water on it instead of this guy throwing some kind of torch at it. Which even that torch looks weird. And it would be a huge trick if all of a sudden there was something to see on the inside of these. I can't help but feel like you are just kind of getting this the situation where you kind of aren't being given enough information, and they're just telling you should be able to figure it out. Pursuer's office. All right. Purser. Finally. Wow. I thought that was going to take forever. That's the bosun. That's Nathan Peters. And that's the purser. Okay. So let's go to unholy captives then. Samuel Peters was stabbed by a terrible beast. No, he wasn't. I know who Samuel Peters is. I just have to figure out if I can find him, because he was the one. Let's see. This guy. Swap some things around while we're doing this. See, this is the guy that says, "You forgot? You killed my brother." I think this is Peters, because that's the only, well, Nathan Peters fell overboard. So either this guy was clubbed by Peters, I think he was. Not Nathan Peters, but the other Peters. Where is he? I swear I saw another Peters. The scrolling on this system does not make for a great way to ensure you can find the names you're looking for, even if you know what you're looking for. Nathan Peters is a seaman from England. Ah, you know what's probably happening here is Samuel Peters. Is probably, that's why I can't find him, is that he obviously couldn't be clubbed by his own person. And was there something more to this? The guy's a Dane, so we need to then find this guy. That's almost certainly right. Still don't know who this guy is. But almost anything is worth guessing. Paul Moss, first ship's mate. Not being considered. Is he possibly a steward? First mate steward, maybe ship steward. Move that out. This guy is not that guy, so we'll move one up. Of course, it also could be that they just all fell overboard. This guy's not that guy, so we'll switch there. This guy looks like he might be a midshipman, so we'll take a name. This guy either didn't fall overboard or he isn't that, so we'll take a different name. This has to be somebody. Either a third mate or bosun's mate or steward. Not from India, maybe from Wales. Also, he was killed by a sword with an unknown attacker. This is a guy who was shot by somebody we don't know. This guy was shot by someone we don't know. This guy was shot by someone we don't know. So, yeah. Some of these guesses just don't matter. Feel like this is probably one of the characters. We know it's not East Indies now, so Europe. Next. Or we're totally wrong there. Europe next. Yeah. If each of these were right, and these are all the same solution, I would have triggered something, so something is wrong there, obviously. This guy, is he spiked by a terrible beast? When did this guy start bleeding? There's a spike, and there's drips. I mean, was he stabbed with a sword in the middle of combat? That might be the difference there, certainly, is that he may very well just be somebody who was stabbed with a sword in the middle of combat, and it's just not showing me every bit that I need to see. Can't go back up. And seemingly you can't go any further down. Alright, and then if we look at the map, let's get to the next location, which is this guy way over here. Yeah, maybe we can get a better understanding on how this guy died. And that might help us a little bit with information, but maybe not so much. It's kind of a hassle at this point. Like, we over the course of an hour got one set of 3 fates set. If it takes us that long, we could potentially have 20 hours of entertainment if it took us that long from the beginning, considering there are 60 people. But I hardly suspect that's really going to be the case. So we're going to have to figure out some major increase in information, because guessing is just not doing it, and we may just have to go through the entire story over and over again. Let's see. Like, this guy is probably a midshipman character. If he isn't, then he's a seaman, and he's just died in a weird location. But even if I was to try and go through this whole book, it still seems like there's a kind of large amount of people. There we go. And using just like racism only works so far, because we are hitting a point where that we're gonna just have the English people. See, this is not the right top man. That is even a top man. Let's put him as a sailor. gotta be one of these people, doesn't he? If we could get this guy, and this guy's supposed to be super easy to figure out. If we could figure out who he is, I feel like the game would be way easier. And see, there's no option here for survived. So alive. Let's see. And a lot of these still, we will have to go through memories. Because there's kind of just no guessing. Let's see. Change his name to George Shirley. And then change his name to that guy. Just to guess. We've got some passengers that we probably should. Like the idea that we still have two English well, that's the female English passengers, and we don't know how that guy died. So we know we're not looking at passengers. So it could either be stewards. Is this possibly a steward? Or a mate? See, is this possibly a steward? Which is more likely, that the guy would be a mate or steward? And if Lars Lind wasn't killed by that Peters, maybe it was killed by Nathan Peters? Otherwise, we need to find some other brother and people with the last names. And of course, you're making the assumption that in this world, people have the same last names. Males in particular have the same last names, which there's really no guarantee of that, since this is such a weird, different kind of world. Yeah, I think a heavy focus. And see, if you accidentally hit B when this happens. So we now know midshipmen people have the kind of button-up shirt. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a world where people do, like, the sailors take on the wives' names, or, I mean, for all you know, this is a world where men marry men as much as women and men get married. Anything and everything is possible in a world like this. It only has the basic parallels to 1807 reality. Right, well, still trying to figure out some things, but we do, I think, now know who the midshipmen are. Enough that we can, probably before we even start, just say, if that's a midshipman, and he looks like that, then that's probably a midshipman. And if he's not that midshipman, he's probably that midshipman. then that probably makes that guy midshipman. Which then tells us that that's not a midshipman and that is a seaman, probably. Still don't think we know who shot that guy, but we will get 2 correct answers as soon as we figure that part out. We are now hitting a level where a significant amount of the book is just filled in. Just put a name there. We had already done that one, so we don't want to change that one, because that's a decent guess. This isn't the gunner's mate. It can't really be a passenger. Really can't be a person. So we're, helmsman probably is a good idea for a guess. But we don't have any sailors left, which maybe means the necklace, the people with the knots are a little bit higher status with the tied knots. So I wonder if this guy's not right, so we'll swap that around. No. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Live in the Middle East. I've either completely misidentified this guy, or there's something I'm missing there. Yeah, I may very well have just misidentified the person who survived. Alright, well, that's gonna be it for this recording. With luck, we'll be able to go through the remainder of the stories and just half brute force, half actually deduct the solutions. The game feels like it's getting a little long here, and I definitely have heard reports of people playing this game and then just like getting busy and not actually finishing it all the way to the end, which is a danger in all games, but particularly a game like this where the major payoff and the major reward for your time and effort is going to be getting that secret chapter, and you can only get the secret chapter if you actually collect all of the fates correctly. Otherwise, you don't get to see that, and you just get a bad ending. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.